territories. If you have terrorists hoisting up flags, collecting taxes, they are government. They're just not the right government. The approach from the People's Democratic Party is to reclaim these territories, re-establish them as Nigerian territories, and then to put an adequate, proper, responsive Nigerian government over those spaces. There are no ungoverned spaces.
Can I just say something that he mentioned earlier on about an allegation, a ridiculous allegation about Alhaji Kashim Shettima? I think it is absolutely disgusting. Anybody would look at the person of Alhaji Kashim Shettima and try to attribute. I mean, that is an allegation. There's no proof to it. This is a man that went through the most. He went to the then president, emotional, for them to intervene in the situation. Allegations left, right, and center. We have people on videotape being their voices heard about allegation of them doing SPV or what have you. We have the former president making allegations at the PDP candidate, but you don't see us jumping on that, because if there was any truth to any of these allegations, you take it through the law courts. You cannot make allegations and defame people in the way that one has done to call somebody like Alhaji Kashim Shettima. But you know, on this sponsor of Boko Haram, but you know, on this issue, I'm going to do a Michelle Obama on him. He goes low, I'm going to go high. I'm not going to talk about allegations, because if there's any allegation, we take it to the law courts.
All right.
But it's absolutely ridiculous to say that.
Let's return to the NNPP spokesperson.
Well, thank you very much.
Right.
First, they are ungoverned spaces. Secondly, the fact of the matter is still that Nigeria, you ask yourself, some people talk as if some of us don't live in this country. Then you ask yourself, what's the value of the life of a Nigerian? And that's what my principal, distinguished Senator Rabi Musa Kwankwaso, is saying, that every child you see on that road that's not where it's supposed to be, I look at that child as my child. Every life that has been lost over the years, you'll see, even recently, some people died in Katsina, and there was still a rally, as if nothing happened. Now, I want to also tell you that this Boko Haram ungoverned spaces, they move from Maiduguri to Kaduna, is still Nigeria. The only industry that is thriving today in Nigeria is banditry and kidnapping. God forbid we experience it. Like I said earlier on, of government matters. You can tell everybody in the whole world we're open for business. If the policies that you put in place is driving companies out of Nigeria to the neighboring countries, we have not done well. And that's why the few that are here, you want to tax them to death. And when you put too much taxes, they are not employing anybody. The way that the policy is going in Nigeria today, I don't want to talk, I mean, we could go as far back as 1960 before independence. It's not going to do us any good. Right now in Nigeria, how do we correct unemployment? Yes, government cannot employ everybody. Nobody expects that. Nobody does that across the globe. However, the government policy is very integral to any business activity.
Okay, let's take this to a different level. You have all spoken about what your parties are promising the citizens of the system, because these are rights, and that is what governments are elected to do in the first place. So we should be talking about how you go beyond all of that. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, of course, we have to go beyond all of that, but it's an evolution, isn't it? You know, ours is a very still very young democracy.
That presupposes that these things have not been addressed.
Yes, maybe they haven't. We had a military rule before now. It was in 1999, it was almost as if it was ground zero. So we had to sort of explore and experience this sort of democracy. What I have seen in the last decade or 2 decades or so is the evolution of this democracy. And this, you can see this more than anything in the way that people are getting involved. Because of these issues, people want to have their voices heard, want to be able to play a part in making those decisions. But, you know, effectively, I believe the great things about democracy is that, and especially the sort of democracy that we operate, visible, and through this process we're able to address it. So we hope that for Nigerians, 93.4 million registered voters will be able to look at all these candidates, to interrogate them as people, to also look at what plans they have, what programs, policy framework they are presenting to Nigerians, and they will make their decision. Hopefully, in 11 days' time, they will make that decision, and hopefully, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu will be the one that will be declared as winner at the end of the day.
Right.
While I agree that these are rights, the fundamental rights, not just rights, fundamental rights. There's a whole chapter, chapter 2 of the Nigerian Constitution that is dedicated to these objectives: educational objectives, economic objectives, political objectives, and what have you. What the three of us represent here, and what other political parties represent, is the difference in the prism from which you view these rights, from which you view these objectives. And so one person sits down here and says we need to get a smaller government, and so that we can get better private sector participation. And then another person has a history of, you know what, we want a bigger government and bigger regulation than we want private sector participation. What we're asking people to vote for is the difference in the prism. But one person says, you know what, I would rather empower the economy, I would rather a bigger economy that they are better capable of helping the Nigerian people enjoy those rights than the other political parties.
Right. Well, for us, we believe that bringing governance grassroots, engaging people. We have a program in our manifesto or our blueprint that talks about community participation and reorientation program. What has not been done so far? If you ask me what are we doing differently? Bringing governance to the grassroots, engaging people, whether at the education level, whether at the talking about community policing. When community knows themselves, and what this reminds me is the local content aspect of what we are doing in Nigeria as a federal government. Applying the local content rule to everything we do so that we can engage our people. So bringing governance to people has a lot of advantages. Whether you want to talk about the security, you want to talk about economy, you want to talk about, just like I said, conflict resolution, you want to talk about development, because people owns these projects. And like I will say to every Nigerian today, that our campaign is your campaign. It's all about you and your family. If you go into our manifesto, our blueprint, all we say is that we need a better Nigeria because it's possible. And how we are going to do it is clearly stated. The funds that we're going to raise to do it, it's already there. It's clearly stated. So the fact of the matter is that we can continue to talk domain over the years. Look at how they have bring their states from one level to the other in terms of development over the years. Look at what they have done about education over the years, human capital development over the years. Look at how they brought businesses back to their domain over the years. And look at the decisions they've made. Even my principal as a minister of defense, look at his accomplishment. Look, you have to engage people. It's not all about money. And what we are saying today, you have billions of nairas or dollars, or you do not. You have the opportunity to become whatever you want to become in this country and make Nigeria a place for all of us. Then what I also wanted to share is that in this election, it's not about entitlement. It's not about entitlement. It is about who has the capacity, the leadership, accessibility, who is objective enough to lead this country. We are at a very, very critical crossroad, and we need to think twice. PDP has had its time, APC has had its time, and it's getting worse. There must be a U-turn. My principal, distinguished Senator Rabi Musa Kwankwaso, he has been in governance over the years. And for him to remain standing, it takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of commitment. And it takes a lot of dedication to duty.
All right.
Thank you.
We're just about rounding off on this program now. And so we'll just give you the opportunity to, in just a minute, on what your parties are doing to ensure that the polls will be devoid of, yes, we know sometimes the parties can say their supporters are beyond them, but what your parties are doing to ensure that the supporters do not go overboard and stick to the rules of the
We'll
game.
let the man have the floor.
Wow. Okay. As the People's Democratic Party, we believe that there's a fundamental desire to provide leadership to a country. We don't want to be president, and if people come out and perpetrate acts of violence and destruction, what we will have is a country that is ashes. We believe that the power of choice is supreme, and that fundamentally in a democratic setup, where that power of choice resides is with the people. It's why the slogan of the party is power to asking the people, come out.
Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has spent the best part of his life fighting for the freedom of Nigeria and protecting those freedoms. He has spent his time in administration building a state, of course, leveraging on what was there before and building it to a point that it is the pivot point, it is the glory of Nigeria, or probably Africa itself. This is a man who really does have the vision, and I keep on saying the sincerity of purpose, to be able to do what is right for Nigeria. And we want all our history of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu to go out in mass and vote for him. And I think in the next 12 days, my brother here will be calling me to congratulate me, because Asiwaju will be the next president.
Right. Let's hear you.
Well, thank you so very much for having us. For us, we are not going to separate the party from the candidate. We have a core belief that every Nigerian has the opportunity to associate with whoever they choose to. And I will tell you basically that if you go into the Northwest, that is our stronghold. All of the political parties have been able to go in and out of that place without much, of an incident. And I already shared with you that the National Peace Committee, did a poll, and they did some monitoring and evaluation out to say that we have not recorded any incident that is associated with our party. So what we are telling Nigerians is that this election is very critical to each and every one of us, to our families, to our businesses, to our country, and to us as a people. So please go out. If they give you money, please take the money, but vote your conscience.
No money.
Thank you.
All right, and it is on that note, as I always say, no one program can capture all the issues. It is on that note we must end this conversation and leave it for another time and say thank you to our guests, Hannatu Musawa, Deputy Spokesperson, All Progressives Congress, APC. It's been interesting having you on this
Thank you,
program.
Mr. Stover. It's a pleasure to have interacted with you in this way.
Right, thank you. Barrister Ilemona Onoja, Director New Media, PDP President.
Journalism profession.
And he remains
To be on your program, interacting you in this manner is a privilege I
Yeah.
do not take lightly.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Folashade Aliyu, National Campaign Secretary, NNPP Presidential Campaign Organization. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so very much, Wes. I'm so delighted to be on this program, and I'm hoping and I want to believe that Nigerians have learned a lot from you and from your program. And please continue the good works.
Thank you. All right. So thank you too. Thank you for those who participated, who called in. Thank you. Next week, we'll be back with NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stover. Continue to stay safe.